What's up, guys? Welcome to the Successfully Unemployed Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I want to show you how you can quit your job, never work for somebody again, with any different way possible. That could be owning a taco truck. That could be cleaning carpets. It could be having a blog. It could be having a podcast or even do public speaking. Everything out there is open for you, so you don't have to work for somebody else. You can actually make money for your family without working that JOB, that just over broke job. Now, I want to get you started, and I want you going down the path to financial freedom. I want to give you my best-selling book for free. It is the How to Quit Your Job with Passive Income. I want to get that to you for free if you go to successfullyunemployed.co/free book. And in this book, I'm going to teach you how to work one time and get paid over and over and over and over again. See, if you work a JOB, a just over broke job, you're going to work one time and get paid one time. And then you're going to call your boss, hey boss, can I get 1 week off of work because I had just had a kid? They're going to say, no, you can't. You got to come back to work. We're going to be able to make money without working. We work one time and get paid over and over again. That's the beauty of passive income. And if there's one thing I would tell myself, my 13-year-old self, is learn how amazing passive income is sooner rather than later. Get started in passive income. And so I want to give you everything that I would tell my 13-year-old self. I put it in a book and I want to give it to you. Go to successfullyunemployed.co/free book and get that PDF download of my free book. I literally sell it on Amazon, but I'm going to give it to you for free. Successfullyunemployed.co/free book. Now, today we're going to be talking with a fantastic speaker, somebody that gets paid to tell stories, gets paid to just talk to groups of people. And there are many, many people that actually want to do this. And so I'm super excited to bring on my guest today to show you how you can scale your business, start getting paid to tell stories, and do really well so you don't have to work for somebody else again. All right, guys, enjoy this episode where we learn how to do public speaking. Welcome, everybody, to the Successfully Unemployed Show. I am super excited that you are here with me as we are learning how to become successfully unemployed through every single way we can absolutely find. And today I have a fantastic show for you where I am interviewing somebody who has created a speaking business so that he can provide for his family, not working that just over broke job, getting out of that and provide for his family by having his own business, teaching people, talking to people, telling his story over and over again, and getting paid to do that as well. It's a fantastic business. So I have Grant Baldwin on the show. Grant, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it, man. Looking forward to this.
All right, Matt. So let's jump right into it. How do you make money speaking and be able to provide for your family without having a just over broke JOB, a job?
Yeah. So today what we do is the core of what we do is we teach people how to find and book paid speaking gigs. So I've been in the speaking industry for about 12, 13 years now. And we can go way back in time. I was a youth pastor for a little while and then got into speaking and really enjoyed it. But I had a lot of people who were asking me like, hey, I want to be a speaker. How do I find gigs and how do I know how much to charge? And so we created a couple programs. And that's the core of what we do today is we teach people how to find and book paid speaking gigs through our different programs.
That's awesome. Now, you and I have known each other for a little bit. We're just normal guys, normal guys like your next door neighbor that really just love helping people. I invest in real estate and I love showing people how to do it because it's just fun for me. And it's something right. I can do. Same thing with you. You love speaking, but now you love sharing with it. Now, take us back. You said you were a youth pastor. Talk to us about when you were working a job and how that got you to transition from there to becoming full-time in your paid speaking gig, and then all the emotions and feelings and, how did your wife feel and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So if we go way back, so when I was working at this local church as a youth pastor, I had a lot of opportunities to speak and I enjoyed it. I felt like I was decent at it. I wanted to do more of it. Had no idea what to do from there. And so the church that we were at, there were parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't like. But the thing I really enjoyed was speaking. And so we'd been there for a little over a year, and it was a tough gig at times. It was one of those where there's not necessarily like clock in, clock out. You're just kind of always on and always available. And ministry is not for the faint of heart. And so my my wife was pregnant with our first child, and there's nothing like bringing a kid into the world that just causes you to like question everything and just figuring out what the heck am I doing with my life. And so I started really thinking through, like, is this really what I want to be doing? If I was going to be doing something else, what would I rather be doing? And so ultimately, we kind of landed on like, okay, I'm not sure what I would rather be doing, but I know that the gig that I'm currently doing is not it. It was less than a healthy environment. And so ultimately decided to resign that. Now, at the time, my wife was, I think, 5 months pregnant with our first child. It's not like we had a ton of savings or anything to fall back on. I didn't have any other job lined up. So looking back on paper, horrible timing. But at the same time going like, okay, I got to figure out what I want to do with my life, right? And we all have to work. We all have to eat and live indoors. So we got to do something here, right? And I want to be clear on what that is for me. And so for the next several months, I worked a variety of just different odd jobs. So I worked at a security company, basically doing like residential door-to-door security sales, like home security systems. So did that for a little while. I worked at a couple different restaurants as a server. And it was just like trying to piece things together just to make ends meet. None of it was like my career aspirations was to be a security salesman or to be a server, although I enjoyed both those gigs. But it wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. I was just trying to like buy time and again, continue to make ends meet. And so ultimately, like really spending several months of just kind of soul searching to figure out what am I good at? What do I want to do? What am I passionate about? What am I interested in? Where are my skills at? Really kind of landed on the speaking path. And so talked with my wife about it and she was on board. She's like, yep, let's go after it. And like any business, it wasn't where like, you decide on Friday, like, okay, I think I want to get into speaking. I think that'd be cool. And then like, all right, I'm going to just quit my job on Monday. I'm going to just do that. And like, it doesn't work like that because there's that interim period of like, I still have to eat and live indoors and provide for the family. So I still got to be doing something else to make that possible. And so for a little while, it feels like you're doing a lot because you're doing your normal quote unquote day job just to like make ends meet. But then at the same time, like you're trying to build something else up and build some momentum there. And so you're doing a lot. But over time, what ended up happening was I was like, okay, I want to pursue a career as a speaker. So I started booking a few gigs. And as I was booking a few gigs, then I started reducing some of the other things I was doing. So I was doing the security job, and then I was working at a restaurant. So then I stopped working at the restaurant and was just doing the security thing while doing more gigs. And then I was doing, also within the midst of that, I worked for 2 different speaking companies, and I was doing presentations for them. And so then, as my own speaking started to take off, then I stopped doing the security stuff. And as my own speaking continued to pick up, then I stopped doing one of the other one of the other speaking companies. And so eventually it got to a point where it wasn't just like this overnight thing of going like, all right, I'm ready, let's go. It was just kind of this gradual step-by-step process to make sure that, again, we were stable and secure and comfortable, that, again, we could continue to pay the bills and provide for the family, to slowly make that transition to being a full-time speaker. So absolutely it wasn't an overnight thing, but having the patience and having like a goal in mind of, okay, I know where I'm going with this, was what made it possible.
That's great. And I love the fact that you know that you have to provide for your family. That's something that we have to do. And that's a hard part in a transition. Now, when I quit my job, I had 30 plus properties. I didn't need to worry about money. So I was blessed to be able to do that. It would be so mind blowing for me to say, you know what? Oh, because I was a youth pastor for a while as well. And so going through that, I feel you. I know you don't get paid very much too. Get that headache. And so transitioning, I could absolutely see that. Now, as you were going through that, your wife said, let's go right for it. Now, let's take a step into the business of speaking. Show me or tell me how. I know you have, there's probably some steps in there from, step 1, step 2, step 3. How do I get started with public speaking?
Yeah, so this is absolutely something that we cover inside the new book, The Successful Speaker. And so we walk through what we call the Speaker Success Roadmap. So it is 5 steps that just walk this through that makes the acronym SPEAK, SPEAK. And so we'll give you kind of a high-level view of that, and then we can dig in wherever you want. But the S is for select a problem to solve. Select a problem to solve. And this isn't applicable to just speakers. This is true for anybody trying to do their own thing, trying to be that successfully unemployed. So the S, select a problem to solve, really comes down to 2 parts of the equation. One is getting really, really clear on who it is that you want to speak to. As a speaker, you cannot speak to everybody. So if we say, like, who do you speak to? And you're like, I speak to humans. I speak to people. Like, that doesn't work. You got to be really clear and really specific about who it is that you speak to. The second part of the equation is what's the problem that you solve for that audience? What is the problem that you solve? So again, you can't try to speak on anything and everything. So if someone asks, what do you speak about? And you say, what do you want me to speak about? I can speak about anything. Like, that doesn't work. So you have to be really clear about who you speak to and what is the problem that you solve for that audience. So that's the S. The P is then prepare your talk. Prepare your talk. So once you're clear on this is who I speak to, this is the problem that I solve, I know what the solution is that I'm trying to bring to the table. And that can come in the form of a workshop or a keynote or a breakout or a seminar. We talk about as well as how to create and deliver a great talk from stage as well. The E is then establish yourself as the expert. So this comes down to really putting your flag in the sand, your mark on the ground that, like, I am the go-to authority on this subject or topic. I am the person that you want to hire to talk about this. This really comes down to two key marketing tools, your website and your demo video, So you have to have these things in place. And again, we dig into more on how do you put those together. The A is acquire paid speaking gigs. So just because you're clear on who you speak to, just because you know what the problem is that you solve, just because you have a website and a video, doesn't mean all of a sudden, like, you're magically going to get gigs. Okay. It means squat. So now we got to actually create some type of system that's going to help you to actually book gigs. And so that's where we dig into that. And then the K is know when to scale. Know when to scale. What I mean by that is there's a lot of people who are interested in speaking who are also interested in writing a book or doing a podcast or doing a course or doing coaching or consulting or any number of other things. And you can do all of the things, but you can't do all the things at once. Something's going to come first. Something's going to come last. You got to be clear about how does speaking fit into the mix of what you want to accomplish. So big picture, that's what the Speak framework is. That's kind of what we walk through and what we teach inside the book.
And what was the book called again?
The Successful Speaker, 5 Steps for Booking Gigs, Getting Paid, and Building Your Platform.
That's awesome. Now, let's say we already have an idea. Well, let's role play. So yeah. I teach real estate. I already have a blog, Master Passive Income. I already have a podcast. I already have a bunch of books out there. I've already have a little bit of stuff out there, but I have never done paid speaking. I never gone anywhere, and I've had things where I've done it for free, in front of like an REI or like a real estate meetup. I've done that plenty of times, but I've never said, hey, can you hire me to come speak at your event? I've never done that before. What is the first step that I would do after I've already have the established of my brand and everything? What should I do next?
Yeah. So we just work right through that process. So if we started with the S and being really, really clear about who you speak to and what's the problem that you solve. So one of the ways you can start by doing that is by thinking through some of your experience, what's your expertise in, what is some of the worlds that you already know. So like for you, you know a lot about real estate, you know a lot about real estate investing, you know a lot about like long distance real estate investing, various types of real estate investing. So you already have some knowledge there. So from there, then you want to do a little bit of market research to figure out what are the opportunities that actually exist in the marketplace. Just because you care about a topic, just because you're knowledgeable about a topic, doesn't mean people are actually hiring speakers to talk about that. If I said I am deeply passionate about underwater basket weaving, I may be the world's foremost expert on it, but it doesn't mean anybody's hiring speakers to talk about that. So you have to figure it out. Maybe they are, but you have to do a little bit of research to figure out, is this a thing that people are looking for? And so to do that, you can do that in a couple different ways. One is that you can go to Google and look for other speakers who are doing something similar to what you want to do. So look up, real estate investing speaker, and which you probably find a lot. Real estate conference, real estate event. You live in Arizona, right?
Yep.
And so if you did a search for Arizona real estate conference, Arizona real estate investing event, real estate investing association. And so basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to find like some of these actual events that you could potentially be a good fit for. So the process here is you want to find some of these opportunities. And as you're looking, you want to find some that, especially as you're looking for speakers, you want to find some that maybe are a step or two ahead of you, not people who are light years ahead of you. So if you said, okay, I want to be a motivational speaker. So let's see here. We'll Tony Robbins is a motivational speaker, so I should be able to do that. It's like, well, we're talking about different things here. So you want to find someone who, again, is a step or two ahead of you. They're not light years ahead of you. So it feels like, yeah, there is some opportunities that exist for you. Now, if you're researching, if you're looking and you're like, I can't find any speaker who does this, I'm going to be the first. That's not a good thing. That's not what we're going for here. Okay. We want to find where there's an existing market where people are already used to hiring speakers to come in and talk about this. So that would be really the first part of the process, is just kind of getting clear on what's the problem that you could solve, what could you speak on, but then doing some market research to figure out what opportunities actually exist that you could speak to.
Do I do that for free or do I ask for money? Like what, in the getting that first gig, what do I do?
Yeah, so there are a couple of approaches there. So one is that you could absolutely, try to charge, and usually a lot of people, when they're thinking through like how much do I charge, and there are absolutely a lot of variables in that. One of the things that kind of helps with that, a little shortcut, is we put together a free speaker fee calculator. People can go to myspeakerfee.com. It's totally free, but basically you answer a couple of multiple choice questions, and it will give you a number of what you should be charging as a speaker. So again, totally free. Myspeakerfee.com. So that will give you something to go off of. But the other side of it, like in your situation, Dustin, is there are reasons where it may make sense to speak for free. So for example, maybe like in your case, you have some type of product or service that you offer on the back end. So even if they don't pay you anything, but you're able to generate leads, or you're able to generate, clients or customers or something out of the event, then it may be worthwhile for you. So I'll give you an example. There's a student that we worked with a while back, and they do something like 30 or 40 free speaking gigs a year. Almost all the speaking they do is for free, but they do it as lead generation for a coaching business that they have that is a $300,000 a year coaching business. But the whole thing is built on speaking for free. So on paper, you're like, oh, you're just speaking for free. That doesn't count. That's not real, or whatever. But he would tell you that the whole business on the back end of the coaching is built on the free speaking. So even though he didn't get a check up front, he's making significant income and significant revenue on the back end. So all that to say that like there are ways that you can generate revenue that may be beyond just whether or not you got a check at the event. And I think that also speaks to there's people who are listening or watching right now who would say, I want to do what Grant did. I want to be a full-time speaker. I want to do 50, 60, 70 gigs a year. And so other people who are like, I don't want to do that. Like I have either a full-time job, or I'm just starting a business, or I have other things that I offer, but I wouldn't mind doing 5 gigs a year or 10 gigs a year. But I don't know. How do I find those, or how much do I charge, or what do I speak about, or how do I do that? And so there's not a right or wrong amount that you have to do, or right or wrong way that you have to do speaking. Like speaking can fit into a lot of different business models in a lot of different ways. You just ultimately have to decide like what makes sense for you in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. I
love the idea, or the thought that there are so many different ways to either charge for it or to get started. I'll give you an example. It's very, very similar to what one of your students did. So I was traveling from Orlando, Florida. I went to one conference with my family last year. Drove 4 weeks of basically a huge, long, fun field trip along the East Coast, over in your neck of the woods, sightseeing, and did a lot of great stuff. And I had a friend in New Jersey who said, hey, I'm having a real estate investor meetup. Would you come and speak there? I'm like, that's fine. I'll go ahead and do it. I'm going to be hanging out at your house. I might as well just go hang out with you. Would you go speak? Well, I didn't go there with any expectation of anything. I went there and I spoke for free. I taught and I gave inspiration and all that good stuff. And then I got people buying into my course. I didn't even do a sales pitch. Yep. They came up to me afterwards. How can I literally did not do a sales pitch at all. It was just teaching. They come up, how can I work with you? How can I? I was like, great. And so I got people buying into my course and coaching because of that. So absolutely terrific. Now, let's say we got our first gig. We have a couple pictures, maybe a little bit of video of us standing on stage. What's the next step? It seems like our customers are not the people that are in the audience. It's the people that are hiring the speakers. Talk to us a little bit about how do we then market ourselves as a speaker, and who do we call?
Yep. Very good. So you make a great point there that there's a difference between your audience and your buyer. So for example, when I first started my career, like I mentioned, I used to be a youth pastor. Then I started doing a lot of speaking to schools. Now, I was doing a lot with like high schools, for example. And the audience was typically going to be, 16, 17, 18-year-old high school students. But the buyer, the decision maker, was like a 45-year-old principal. So they were two different groups there. And so you're right that you want to make sure that your marketing materials is appealing to your buyer, not your audience, right? Because they're the ones that are actually making the decision. They're the ones that are going to be searching for you. So you want to make sure that your website, your demo video are set up for that. When I created my website initially for speaking, it wasn't to appeal to 16-year-old students. It was to appeal to the 45-year-old high school principal or whoever decision maker. That's who I was trying to reach early on in my career. So once you're again clear on who you're trying to reach and and you have your marketing materials in place, one of the things you mentioned is like, who do I call? I wouldn't recommend that you pick up the phone and call. Like cold calling is no fun for anybody for either side of the phone. I wouldn't recommend it, not advisable. What you can do though, is one of the best places to start in terms of finding gigs. And there's a lot of ways to go about this, but one would be that you can Google just looking up particular events that you may be a fit for. So again, let's go back to, let's say you're searching for some events in Arizona and you find a few opportunities or a few examples, then you may be able to just email them and ask them about some of the events that they may be putting on. Because if for example, let's take that meetup that you spoke at for that friend. That is a meetup that happens on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Monthly, yes.
And they probably bring in a speaker every single time, right? So you didn't have to convince him to hire a speaker. He was already planning on hiring a speaker. You're just showing why you're a good fit. And that's the way all conferences are. It is much simpler and easier to get booked by an organization that's already looking for a speaker versus a organization or a group that you're trying to convince to hire a speaker, and then you're trying to convince that you're a good fit, right? You have to fight two battles there versus, again, with that guy, your buddy, and most events, they're like, we already need a speaker. So you don't have to convince us to hire a speaker. You're just showing why you're a good fit. So if you found, let's say the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association that has a fall conference or something, then it wouldn't be a stretch for you to reach out to them and say, hey, I know that you have your fall conference coming up. I know that you're going to be planning it soon. I'd love to talk to you about here's some possible ideas of things that I could speak on. You're just showing why you're a good fit. Because again, you are providing a solution to a problem that they already have. So email works really well for that, is to start the ball rolling and to start by reaching out. There's other things you can do. Anything that you do speak at, like you mentioned, you spoke at a meetup. Anybody in that audience, they may not necessarily themselves be looking for speakers, but they may know of someone who is. So make sure that your audiences know. Also make sure that everyone in your sphere of influence knows that you're a speaker. So sometimes we're like, okay, I want to be a speaker, but like nobody knows. Nobody, like your mom isn't even aware that you are interested in this. So you want to make sure that people are aware that you are a speaker, that you put it on social media, that you let people know and put it on their radar that this is something that you do. Other things you can do is connect with other speakers who are in your space, who are speaking at similar things. Because if you go, let's take again the meetup example. You go speak there. You did a great job. He loved you. He'd love to have you back. But they're not going to have you back immediately. Like they can't have Dustin come speak it every month. But he is probably interested to say like, okay, you did a great job. Who else do you know who would be a good fit, right? So if Dustin's able to say, oh, you need to go talk to my friend, Grant. Grant would be a great speaker. He speaks on this, or he's an expert on that. He would be a great fit for it. And then events me am going to speak at. I'm doing the same thing. I did a great job at an event, and they want to know who else I would recommend or know. You need to go talk to Dustin. Dustin would be awesome for you. Again, that can work really, really well. I remember my first full-time year of being a speaker, that my largest source of bookings came from other speakers. And just by building relationships with other speakers, and they were just referring me stuff that either they had done before or stuff that they were invited to that I couldn't do. There was one earlier this week at the time of this recording. I got an email from a client I worked with a few years ago, and they said, hey, you did awesome. We would love to have you back. And it wasn't really a fit or they just had a lower budget than what I would be charging. I said, I wouldn't be able to do it, but let me tell you about this other speaker that I think would be great. And they've already booked that speaker. And so just because this speaker had that relationship with me, they made thousands of dollars on a speaking gig because I said, yep, you need to talk to them. And they booked them, so building those relationships with other speakers works as well. But again, the point being that just saying like putting up a website or just posting on social media, like, okay, I'm a speaker now, I just sit back and wait. It's kind of like if I came to you and I said, I want to buy my first rental property. It's like just posting on social media saying like, okay, I'm looking for a rental property. Now just wait. Or I'm never like browsing the MLS, or I'm never talking to agents, or I'm never connecting with other investors. Like you did something that's good, but you got to keep the ball rolling there. You got to keep that momentum going, and it requires work. It requires effort. So there's a lot you can do there, but again, it does require that you take action on it.
So, and I absolutely can attest to the more networking that you do, the more that other people know what you do and how you do it, the better your business gets. Speaking business, it could be, let's say you're doing anything like real estate investing. The more people I told way back when I was first started investing in real estate, the more people I told that I was an investor, that I bought properties, the more deals came to me. And now I literally get deals all the time in my email box. I could just literally turn them down or point them out to somebody else. Like one of my coaching students, like, here you go. Just like you said, just pass them on because you have people already know you. Now, talk about how to establish authority. Like, is a website absolutely important? Should we have a book? Should we have courses? Or could we get started with something that's rather small? Like, do we have to have everything built out first?
No. The website and the video are two very important pieces. You don't need a course. You don't need a blog. You don't need a podcast. You don't need any other of these bells and whistles. You don't need a book. Like, if you have any of those things, that's great. That's fine. That's nice. But you don't have to have them in order to get started as a speaker. But you do need a website. You do need a video. Like, in this day and age, if you don't have a website, you don't exist. Like, people won't take you seriously. So you need a website. Now, just because you need both a website and a video doesn't mean you have to have spent tens of thousands of dollars on them. Like, there's some solid tools that you can create a Squarespace site for next to nothing. Even if you hired a designer to help you with it, and you use some type of template, you could probably create a good website for $100, a couple $100, something like that. Now, again, you can spend thousands of dollars on some fancy custom thing. I'm saying for version 1.0, you don't need to do that. So you just start with like version 1.0, and that works. So definitely recommend a website. Second thing is that demo video. Now, a demo video is, think of it like a movie trailer. Before we would go see a movie, like, you want to see the trailer. And so they take like this 90-minute movie, they boil it down to 2 or 3 minutes. And within those 2 or 3 minutes, you have an idea of who's in it, what's the plot, what's the theme. And the goal of a movie trailer and the goal of a demo video is to make you want to see more, is to make someone be like, oh, that looks legit. We got to go see that. Or like, that looks stupid. I don't want to see that. Not that it's a bad movie. It's just not what I'm looking for. And the same thing is true for an event planner. Like, it's really difficult to convince an event planner or organizer to hire you, let alone to pay you, if they can't actually see it, right? Because whenever they put someone up on stage, they're putting their reputation on the line. I hope this person's good, because it's kind of like if you came, I live in Nashville. So Dustin, if you came to Nashville and you said, man, I'm looking for really good tacos, what do you got? And I send you to some place and you're like, yeah, those tacos suck, that's no good. Then like any other recommendation I make about anything, you're just gonna be like, I don't know, But if you show up and I'm like, hey, these tacos are the best, and then you go there and the tacos are the best, then it makes, like, I have instant credibility, right? So from an event planner standpoint, they are taking a big risk when they put a speaker up on stage to the audience, to their colleagues. They're taking, because again, if you as the speaker show up and you're amazing, then they're like, that event planner is the hero. But if you suck on stage, then everyone's like, why did you pick this person? This is a bad speaker. What were you thinking? It reflects poorly on them. And so you have to make sure that they have something to go off of. They're not going to go off your word. If you just say, just trust me, I'm a good speaker, put me up there. They're not going to do that. They need to see something there. Just like, unpopular opinion here. I haven't seen any of the Star Wars movies. I'm sure they're great movies. A lot of people like them. I've just never seen them. They're just not my cup of tea, right? So it's not that it's a bad movie. It's just not what I'm looking for. There are plenty of events who are like, you are probably a phenomenal speaker. You're just not what we're looking for, right? And so you need the movie trailer, the demo video, for people to be able to get a sense of that. So those are the two things that you really need before people are willing to pay you. Now, you mentioned having a course or a blog or a book, or like, again, if you have those things, great, but don't wait till you have all these other things in place before you start. Like, those are the things that are like, they're nice little ancillary things, but what gets you gigs is having a website, having a video that you can point people to.
So if we have never spoken before, should we, what should we do to get that trailer that's going to highlight our ability to speak? Do we go to a church and say, hey, can I borrow your auditorium? There's nobody going to be in it, but I'm just going to be on stage and video. Or should we just go to one of those meetups and actually give our time for free? Like, what is the best strategy to get that trailer video shot?
Yeah, it does feel like a chicken egg situation where I need footage in order to get gigs. I need gigs in order to get footage. And so which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And so one of the things you can do is if you don't have any of that footage, is you can do a couple things. One is that you could try to find some type of local event to speak at for free. And so this could be, again, like in your case, some type of conference or event or Chamber of Commerce or Toastmasters or something that needs to be in a similar setting of where you would want to speak. So for example, you mentioned like the church world. If you're trying to get booked in the church world, then well, let me back up here. I'll give you an example. You just want to make sure that there's congruency between who you want to be speaking to and what the video is about. So, for example, there's a student who came to us a while back, and she wanted to be speaking to some type of corporate group. I don't remember exactly, but some type of basically corporate group. And so she sent me her demo video, and it was a mix of footage of her speaking at to adults. There was some speaking to like elementary kids, and then there was like a clip of her speaking at a high school graduation. So 3 totally different audiences, 3 totally different settings. And so again, there's like this incongruency there when a potential event planner from a corporate type of company is looking at it going like, who does she speak to again? Because everybody I'm watching in the video isn't who we are. So you want to make sure that there is that congruency. So you could, again, try to find something that you could speak at for free. The other option, you kind of described it, and it feels weird, but you could speak to an empty room. Now, I've seen people do this. This can work really, really well. It can be very effective. I can show you clips from the demo video that I had for years that was really effective, really powerful. And it was the whole video was clips of me, like tight shots of me on a stage speaking. Now, when you watch it, you don't see any other audience members. You don't see anybody else there. You have zero clue how many people are in the room. I ask students regularly, I said, let me show you some clips here. How many people are in the room? And they're all like 1,000, 5, I don't know. There's 3,000 people in that audience, but you don't see anybody. You see me on stage. And so the point being is like, again, it feels weird if you're speaking to an empty room, but it can work and be very effective because if you have like some shots of the audience, that's fine. But remember, like that's not exactly what the event planner they're looking for. They're looking for you. They want to see you speak on stage. So even if you have to recreate it for version 1.0, it can absolutely work.
That's terrific. So and one of the thoughts is now the business aspect of getting new gigs and scaling. That's one, but there's also the actually doing the talk, doing the presentation. Can you give us any tips or any suggestions on how to make sure we do it right and not screw up or be effective as a public speaker?
Yeah, a couple thoughts. One is that your best thing that you can do is to really spend a lot of time practicing and preparing. So the best speakers on the planet, they really take it seriously. They take the craft seriously. They don't just, I'm going to scribble some thoughts on a napkin and hop up there and hope it magically works out. Like they don't do that, and it doesn't work like that. They really spend the time I'm going to work on my talk. I'm going to practice. I'm going to be a lot more confident when I get ready to deliver. The other thing I would say is as a speaker, one of the best things you can do is to tell stories. Stories are really powerful. Stories are really effective. Stories are really memorable and relatable because humans relate to stories. So if I said right now, all right, let me tell you a story. Like a lot of times, a lot of the audience right now perked up, they're dialing in because like, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know if this is going to be funny or sad or entertaining or boring or lame or cheesy or motivational or what, but it's a story. So I'm interested. And people are just drawn to stories. So if you look at, there's a famous talk from Steve Jobs. He was giving a commencement address at, I believe, Stanford. And all he did was he's told 3 stories. I'm going to tell you a story, make a point. Tell you a story, make a point. Tell you a story, make a point. That's the whole talk. And that's a good example of just tell stories. Stories are really, really powerful for speakers. So really, really be prepared and tell a lot of stories are 2 simple things anybody can do.
That's great. I love that. And I completely agree. Whenever I hear anybody say that, I'm going to tell you a story.
Yep.
I perk up. And on top of that, whenever I'm telling a story on a podcast interview or anywhere, or even doing a public speaking, it absolutely grabs people's attention. And that's what people remember. They literally remember the stories and the key point that came out of it because it goes in hand. So completely agree. Now,
okay, let me tell you. I'll actually tell you a story. I'll give you an example of this. So this happened just last week. My oldest daughter is 13, and she goes to our church's youth group. And so I take her and pick her up on Wednesday night. So I take her last week, drop her off, and then afterwards I pick her up. Okay, she just walked out of service, right? She just walked out. She hops in the car. We're driving home. I mean, it was, I don't know, just a few minutes ago that she'd heard the message. And I asked her, what did the youth pastor talk about? And she's like, I don't really know. But he told this story, and she goes on for the next several minutes, like almost verbatim what it felt like, reciting this story that the youth pastor had told. She didn't remember what the whole talk was about, but man, she knew this story, right? That she just heard a few minutes ago. And so again, and I can think about, it was a story about, the youth pastor was in high school, and he and buddies used to take all these pictures around town with a broomstick, and then they would put like these captions of like the broomstick had its own personality. And like I like right now in this moment, I wasn't there. I'm hearing the story secondhand, but I can probably regurgitate enough of the story here to get the idea, because stories are very memorable, very relatable. So it's really important, again, to tell a lot of stories.
I love that. It's fantastic. I completely agree with you. So the last thing I want to do is I want to jump to the very end of the 5 steps. Is how do we scale it? How do we make sure that we know when to scale it, and even how to scale it to where we don't have to work for somebody else anymore, where we are working for ourselves and being successfully unemployed?
Yeah. So a lot of this, again, comes down to what your goals are. So again, there's people who their goal is they want to speak 100 times a year, and people who want to speak 50 times a year, and people who want to speak 5 times a year. And it's not that one's better or worse than the other. You just got to get really, really clear about what it is that you want to do and how does speaking fit into the mix. So again, there's a lot of people who would say, okay, I'm interested in speaking, but I'm also interested in doing a book or doing consulting or doing a coaching or doing any number of things. And so you can do all the things, but you can't do all the things at once. So again, something's going to come first, something's going to come last. You got to be really, really clear about what makes the most sense for you and what you're trying to accomplish. So again, that's again, one of my favorite things about speaking is there's no right or wrong amount, and there's no right or wrong way. You got to figure out what it is that you're trying to do, what your goals are for your business, professionally and personally, and then figure out how speaking fits into the mix.
That's fantastic. Now it sounds like and I know that I've heard many, many times, the number one fear that every single person has, or the majority of the people have, is public speaking. If somebody says, I really want to do it, but I'm scared, is there any tips that you could say to help them get over that fear?
Yeah, I'd go back to one of the things we touched on earlier, which was just the practice side of it. So the more you practice, generally, the more comfortable, the more confident you are. So it's kind of like if you think back to school days of showing up to take a test, and if you hadn't studied, you probably showed up feeling really nervous and anxious, and you're like, I'm probably going to fail or flunk this thing. Versus like if you really put the work in, you studied, you practiced, you prepared, you read over your notes, you did the study questions, all that stuff. You may still feel a little bit of butterflies, but you show up feeling like, no, I got this. I'm ready. I'm comfortable. I'm confident. And that would be another thing I would say would be that recognize that sometimes your body's reaction feels like nerves, but oftentimes it's actually excitement. So if you think about like some of the high stakes moments in your life, Dustin, if you think about when you proposed to your wife, when you think about when your kids were born, when you think about, like any of these moments where like this was a really big moment, it was a really big deal, you probably had some of those similar butterflies. When you proposed to your wife, you probably had that same type of feeling that wasn't like, this is going to be a disaster. She's probably going to say no. Like I'm pretty confident she's going to say yes, or I wouldn't be on my knee asking. But my body's reaction with like this adrenaline and this excitement just shows you that moment matters. And so whenever you are feeling similar before you go speak, it's telling you that what you're getting ready to do is significant, that it's important, that it matters. And so again, how do you minimize that? How do you make sure that it doesn't become like anxiety inducing and it's just way over the top? Then again, that's where you practice, you prepare. So it's like, I'm nervous, I feel the butterflies, but I got this. I did the work. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've thought it through. I put in the effort, and now I'm ready to get on stage and deliver. So recognize that it's not always necessarily nerves. Sometimes it's just excitement, but it feels like nerves. And then make sure that you're really practiced and prepared. That'll give you a lot more confidence going on stage.
That's fantastic. And I know comedians, they number one, write everything out. They write all the jokes, but they test jokes over and over and over and over again to number one, make sure it's crafted right, make sure it's said right, but then also get rid of things that don't work, but also so that they know exactly what's going to happen when they tell the joke. So that's fantastic. Now, you've given us great insights. I want to jump now into the rapid fire round. Are you ready for that?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So the first question is, after you've quit your job, now you have a little bit of extra time to be able to give to the community, to serve people. How are you giving back so that you can make sure that either the world's a better place, the community, your family, how are you able to give back, or what are you doing to give back?
Yeah, one of the things we do is this is not a pat on the back in any way, but we give a significant amount of money away to various causes and to our church. And so I know one of the things I've come to realize is, as an entrepreneur, one of my skills is being able to make money. And so I know one of the opportunities that we have because of that is to help other people, and giving toward either causes that we believe in or that we want to support, or just giving to our church. So financially is one of the best ways that we have to give back.
That's great. I love that. Now, next question. If somebody were to come to you and say, Grant, I really want to start speaking, give me a succinct, maybe like 1 minute or less. How do I get started speaking?
The succinct answer is that you go buy the book, The Successful Speaker. So that's going to, again, we've given you the high level overview here of what you need to do, that Speak framework, but you need to just follow the Speak framework. So if you're serious about speaking, get the book. It's going to go into in depth on all of those pieces. But that's what you need to do. You need to follow the Speak framework, and to get more information on that, you need to get the book, The Successful Speaker.
And you have countless numbers of students. I mean, I can't even count how many students you have. I mean, you've shown so many people how to actually do it. So I would absolutely test that. You definitely need to, if you're at all interested, that's a great way to go. Quickly go over what are the 5 steps one more time.
Yep. Remember, it's that Speak framework, SPEAK. So the S is select a problem to solve. The P is prepare your talk. The E is establish yourself as the expert. The A is acquire paid speaking gigs. And the K is know when to scale.
Awesome. Next question. If you were to go back and give your 13-year-old self any advice, could be life, could be business, whatever it might be, what would you give yourself?
Take it easy, dude. I think like sometimes we can put so much pressure on yourselves of feeling like, man, I wish, and there's moments now where I'm like, I would love to see into a crystal ball to know like, what are the next, year, 5 years, 10 years of life, how it's all going to play out. Is it all going to work out? Dude, just relax. You're good. You're fine. It's going to be okay. Keep hustling, keep working, keep doing your thing, but also recognize like there's a lot of things that are outside your control, a lot of things you can't control. So I'll give you a quick example. I'll give you a story. So I heard this from, I think this was in the book, Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. And she was talking about it in the context of writing a book. I think this applies in a lot of different ways, but the idea was, if you think about life is kind of like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as the headlights will show you. You can only see a few feet in front of you, but you can make the entire trip that way. You can literally drive for thousands and thousands of miles having zero clue what's just a few feet in front of you. And that's really the way life is. Like at the moment of this recording, we have no clue what the next several months, years, decades of life look like. But I know that the headlights can show me a few days, maybe a few hours, a few moments of life in front of us. I have no idea how things are going to play out, but I know that I can make the entire drive that way. So I think if anything, it's just like, chill out, relax. It's all going to be okay.
I love it. I'm a driven person, so that helps me just in general. I'm like, man, I got to be able to enjoy life in general as well. So next question. What is one tool, one app? It could be a journal, it could be an app on your phone. What is one thing that has helped you be more successful and make your life more efficient? What is one tool we should use?
Good question. Okay, I've got my phone in front of me here. There's one, I'm trying to think of, I think it's called Streaks. Streaks. Yeah. I use that for habit setting. And it's just a simple one where you can set up, reading a certain amount per day, or, what you eat, or tracking food, or exercising, or, spending time with your family, or whatever. You can put in any number of different habits there. It's just a simple little, like, kind of yes or no checkbox that you did it or didn't do it. So that's a fun one for just tracking good habits.
That's great. I've never even heard of it, so I'm definitely have to check it out.
Cool.
So last question. What is one nonfiction book? It could be business, life, whatever it might be, that you would suggest that would be great for us to read?
In addition to The Successful Speaker, I'm a big fan of the book Rework. It's by a guy named Jason Fried and his business partner, and they run the company called Basecamp, and that's tool by the same name. But I really like the way that they approach business, that they are very driven, motivated, entrepreneurial guys like us, but they're not doing it at the detriment of their families or their personal lives, or like, hey, I'm going to build some massive, $1 billion Silicon Valley money unicorn, but I'm going to sell my soul in the process, and going to work 80 hours a week and be stressed out and have health issues and never see my family. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to build and be something and do something successful, but I want to do it on my terms. And so those guys do a really good job in their book Rework, just kind of defining what that looks like for them.
That's great. I have never heard of it, so I'm definitely going to check it out.
Cool.
So, Grant, you've given us so much great wisdom and insight. How can we reach out to you if we want to get into public speaking, get coaching, and get your book? Like, how can we get a hold of you, and how can we find you?
Yeah, everything that we do is over at thespeakerlab.com, thespeakerlab.com. We have info on the book and some pre-order bonuses depending on people when they check this out. You can go to thespeakerlab.com/book, thespeakerlab.com/book. So yeah, everything that we do is over there, thespeakerlab.com.
Awesome. Hey, Grant, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your great wisdom with all of us. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate you, buddy.
All right, you take care. Man, wasn't that fantastic? So much insights. I mean, I'm probably going to have to go back and listen to it all over again just because there's so many great things. Now, at the same time, I also have all the show notes every single time. It'll be in the description of this show, the YouTube show. If you're watching on YouTube or in the podcast, the description will have the show notes page. Go and read everything. It will be written out there so you can actually go item by item and find all the links and everything we already talked about. So check the description for the show notes page. Click on that. And in the description, I'll also put in the link for my free book. Get that free book for free, How to Quit Your Job with Passive Income. All right, you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'll see you next week where we interview another fantastic person that has become extraordinary, not working an ordinary job, to becoming extraordinary and working for ourselves. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.